Welcome back to Mental Health Today and our second season. I hope that everybody had a happy new year and that 2017 is going well. I'm Mike Murray.
I'm Tony Clark.
And we are going to talk about Tony's recovery coming up, as well as Mike's Take and Truth with Tony. It's all happening right here on Mental Health Today. And welcome to Mental Health Today's second season, and we left off in after November, and now we're back here, and it is February. And Tony, you've been through a lot. You were diagnosed with complete agenesis of the corpus callosum. Could you explain what that is?
Well, the left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain, there's a bridge in the middle which sends the information back and forth. So you have the ability to make decisions. It affects judgment, it affects your impulse control, it affects your behavior. I have erratic behavior at times. I think it's a big reason why I have an anger issue as well.
Okay.
Because my brain does not have the ability to process information as quickly as a normal person.
Kind of leads to some frustration.
Yes. And
Okay.
so it ends up to a point where I'm unable to understand what's going on with myself even. And I've told you before, like, I'm a runner. And when I don't understand what's going on or I'm in the middle of chaos, I have a tendency to just run away.
Okay. And this is where we get to your recovery. You were diagnosed with complete ACC, whereas about 24 years ago, you were diagnosed with partial ACC. Now a CAT scan diagnosed you with complete ACC.
Yes. Well, let's back this up a little bit. Since the last time we filmed the show, I'm in the middle of getting divorced, which I'm totally not happy about, and I'm really struggling with. And during that time, I was living with my ex while I was trying to find a place to stay for a few weeks. And it just became a complete volatile situation. Because of my ACC, she was going out and living her life, and I'm picturing things that aren't even happening. And so it became such a stressful situation that I had made the decision about, I can't remember the exact date.
I think it was late December.
But I went through a three-day period where I went from Gaithersburg to Severn, actually, looking for a parking garage to jump off of.
So you were suicidal.
Yeah, very. And I found one in PG County. And I said that, okay, well, I'm going to jump off that parking garage. It was a perfect, like, from the top, there was nothing blocking the ground, and I would just hit the ground and I'd be dead. I woke up one morning living with my wife, and some of you have heard me talk about the teddy bear thing with Squirt, who gives me comfort when she wasn't home and stuff like that. That morning I woke up. My wife was awake. I walked back into the bedroom. I gave Squirt a big hug, and I put him back down on the bed, and I said goodbye to my wife. And when I walked out of the house, I said to myself, I'm either jumping off that building or I'm going to the hospital.
And a lot of people with suicide ideations, they're cornered. They feel like there's no choice. There's no choice. Fortunately, you took the right choice and went to the hospital.
And well, that's what happened was, and it wasn't me, and that's what people don't understand. It wasn't me that made the decision. I was standing in my apartment complex building, in the parking lot, and as I started walking, I sat there with my phone, and I'm looking at my phone, and I'm like, I'm either hitting Uber or I'm walking to the hospital. And as I was walking to the hospital, I kept fighting hitting the Uber button. And fortunately, like you said, I made the right decision. And I went into the hospital, and I told them what my plan was. And they obviously didn't let me go.
Yeah.
And I was there for, I don't know, a week. And during that week, I was diagnosed with the full Agenisis of the Corpus Callosum along with bipolar, which the bipolar was diagnosed 2
years before.
So I was familiar with that.
Yeah.
Most of you know from season 1, I don't believe in better living through chemistry.
That's changed now.
I'm on 5 medicines. I have no side effects really from any of the medicines except 2. One of them makes me pee like a racehorse. I can't drink without peeing.
I'm sure everybody appreciates that.
And well, hey, I'm just
being
honest.
Right.
I'm being honest.
Right.
Another side effect is I wake up very foggy. My brain feels like it's in a fog, and I'm unable to really think or process thought. But as soon as when I wake up and I feel that way and my head feels heavy, I'll go into the bathroom and I'll go into the shower and I'll take my shower, and I take about 10 extra minutes just to sit there.
Yeah.
And let the water really hit my face and everything. And once I'm out of the shower, the fogginess is gone.
Okay, so now we're talking about medication, and we're saying medication, nothing wrong with medication, and you adjust it so that you are trying to feel less side effects, but still that it's effective. And it seems to be effective.
But the fact that there's only 2 side effects to those 5 medicines as of now is great. The only other thing, and I don't consider this a side effect because it's helping, and Mike knows this, with the exception of last night, I am sleeping a lot more. I used to be able to get maybe 2-3 hours of sleep a night. 2 nights ago, I went to bed at 11:30 and I woke up at 11 o'clock the next morning.
Let's talk about that for a second, because and let's talk about ACC, which is Agenisis of the Corpus Callosum. It's called ACC, and the National Organization for Disorders of the Corpus Callosum. There's a lot of information on that, and I think that's www.nodcc.org. By the way, while I'm talking about that, if you have any comments and questions about any of what we're talking about today, it's mentalhealthtoday04@gmail.com, and that'll come up on the left hand of the screen as we continue the show. So let's talk about CACC, complete ACC. What would you say, from what you're experiencing? First of all, it affects 1 in 4,000. That's at least the statistics. And you found that you have ACC by a CAT scan and previously by an MRI.
Yeah.
What is the difference, would you say, between bipolar and ACC? What are some of the things that you do that you may see people with bipolar have, as opposed to things that you can say are ACC related? Or are they interconnected?
They're sort of interconnected, but if I had to pick a difference, the ACC causes me to obsess.
Okay.
A lot.
Okay.
A lot.
Could cause confusion between OCD and ACC.
Yes, but I obsess a lot. Like I said, I'll take a situation that's like this big, and I make it this big. And it's horrible. I'll obsess about something for I'll have a thought and then I'll obsess about it for 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have that one thought and it turns into something so huge and so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not what's actually going on,
Mm-hmm.
but my brain believes it.
Mm-hmm.
That it is going on.
Okay, gotcha.
So, as far as bipolar goes, when I think of bipolar, which I do have and I do see it in me, it's the highs and lows.
Yeah.
It's the hyperness.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times sometimes people meet me, and especially when I'm nervous, I'm really hyper. And I'll tell you my whole life story in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
My bipolar lows, for me, because it's different for everybody, for me, my bipolar lows are the most dangerous place in the world to be for me.
And for a lot of people who become depressed or crash down or something like that.
I will get suicidal.
Yeah.
I wake up in different states. I spend $20,000 in 4 days.
Okay, that's kind of bipolar.
It's the bipolar.
That's
love.
the bipolar
You were
part.
asking me the difference,
Right.
And so, but as far as the ACC goes, it's more of the brain thing of the obsession, kind of like the OCD you're talking about.
Yeah.
But also, it's me believing my brain, and I know that's hard for people to understand, but I'll say to myself, I'm worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And my brain says, no, you're not.
Okay.
And it'll say, no, you're not over and over again until it takes over and I no longer believe in myself.
Mm. And that's the ACC
That
talking.
is the ACC.
And for kids, like when you were younger, you had some behavioral issues, and one of the things that I believe were you diagnosed as ADD, attention deficit disorder?
No, I was not.
You were never diagnosed with that?
No.
Okay. Where would you say the ACC played a role in, I know that susceptibility to bullying is part of ACC.
But also, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it's not diagnosed, it's not in the literatures of anything, but I have a short attention span.
Okay.
I have a very short attention span.
Okay.
And that's a big part of my ACC.
Okay.
So
that can be confused with attention
it can be
deficit
confused
disorder.
with it, and so a lot of times it gets misdiagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And again, unless you do an MRI or a CAT scan on somebody with these illnesses and see that they don't have that part of the brain, and
Mm-hmm.
they say, oh, they have ACC. Well, the problem is there's no treatment for ACC,
Mm-hmm.
none at all.
Mm-hmm.
So you just kind of have to learn to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most difficult thing because I've spent the majority of my life suicidal
Mm-hmm.
because of the ACC.
Right.
And my needs.
Or was it part of the bipolar? Is the suicide
Well, that
part?
too. But my needs are very rarely met. And it's something that's very important to me is that I always need to feel like I'm worth something, not to myself, to someone else,
Mm-hmm.
because I never had any friends, and the friends that I did have were using me because of my family's wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a child,
Because you're a kid, and kids like to play with toys or
and
cool stuff.
I had the highest gadgets you could imagine, so everyone wanted to come to my house. And then when it was time to go have a sleepover, I wasn't invited.
Oh, okay.
So it was that kind of stuff.
Okay, this ties into my take, and we'll get to that in just a second. You go on social media, you go on Facebook, you've been on Twitter. You say it's not very good for somebody on ACC
No, not at all. If I had a choice, I would delete every social media account that I have. Most of you know too, and you will agree. I post everything that I think. And I think a lot.
Yeah.
And I will literally post everything that I think and do. I will offend people because I will not hesitate. Like even when my wife and I would have an argument, I would post the argument on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, that bitch just said blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then she gets pissed off and like, why are you posting our shit on social media?
Mm-hmm.
I can't stop myself.
Is it that
and that's part of
impulsivity?
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's the ACC.
Yeah.
That's the, the problems with judgment and impulse control. I don't have the ability to stop myself. I will say to myself, I am not going to do this. I am not going to do this.
Yeah.
I am not going to do this. And then I do it.
Well, there are studies that are being done by scientists, neuroscientists, that talk about how ACC and bipolar disorder can tie in together, and they're still studying it because ACC is so rare that even some psychiatrists don't know about it.
Yeah, and that's one of my more frustrating things because it's not just the psychiatrists, it's the people in the hospitals that I run into, it's the people at these organizations that are doing intakes with me and stuff like that. And as soon as I mention I have ACC, the first question is always, what's that?
Mm-hmm.
From doctors,
Wow.
psychiatrists, and I'm like, you don't know what ACC is?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how do you even have your doctor's license then?
Yeah, it's
Because-
such a rare disorder.
And it really bugs the hell out of me because I constantly have to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
So I get frustrated.
Yeah.
And because I get frustrated, I appear to be standoffish. This last hospitalization in Montgomery General, the person that runs the 6th floor, I can't remember her name, she tried to get me discharged 3 different times because of my hostility and my anger.
Yeah.
And one day I was in the hospital, I think it was the day before I was discharged, and I had so much anger in me and I have no way to release it. And so I went in my bedroom in the hospital and I just started beating the living hell out of my mattress.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just pounding it. I mean,
That was kind of a technique for
Yeah.
your anger, was to hit the mattress.
Right, and I was hitting as hard as I could, and I just kept going and going and going until I had no breath anymore.
Yeah.
And when I came out, I'm sweating and I'm breathing heavy, and they're like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Nothing. I just went and beat the hell out of my mattress."
Yeah. Well,
and they wanted to discharge me after that.
well, you had a lot of stress, that's for sure, because you were bordering on homelessness. If you didn't, when you were getting out of the hospital, we weren't sure what you were going to be doing. Let's go to Mike's take, and when we come back, this is very important for some people to watch about your ways of recovering from ACC, or your ways to recover, because there's no treatable cure for ACC. There's no pill you can take, but you are in recovery, and I think that doctors will be interested to hear how you recover from ACC.
Before we go to Mike's take, can
Yep.
I say something?
Sure.
When I left the hospital, and went to go stay with my mother, and I'll get to that later, but I started going to a 12-step recovery group, different ones, like every night, and started feeling a little bit better. There was people there that were giving me their numbers, they're talking to me when I contact them and stuff like that. So it made me feel needed.
Right.
Which is what I need.
Right, and we'll get more into support system, because that is what you found to be the recovery part of ACC, which is
I just wanted to
behavioral
slowly bring that in, just to mention that's been a huge part of the last 36 days or so.
Right.
So.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Right now, here's Mike's take.
Guilty of communication crimes. Was it just a binge or was I blind?
It was about 6 months ago that I decided to get off of Facebook. The reason why was because I just really started to become addicted to it. I would sit there and I'd take a look at it on my phone, and for about a half hour I'd be sitting on Facebook. Fact of the matter is, and this is just me, I don't really want to be on Facebook other than showing articles that I do, or in terms of marketing, maybe for this show, and saying, okay, hey, I just did this. Otherwise, I'm not really concerned about that because I think that there's a certain danger that we're seeing in Facebook and social media. And the fact of the matter is that with Donald Trump as the president and all of this political divisiveness, we're seeing people go back and forth arguing about the politics and so forth. And the fact of the matter is, when you have, whether it's anonymous or not, when you start typing things on the screen and just inside your head and letting it out, it's not the same thing as meeting somebody face to face, but it's also showing an ugly side of us. Even if we have these ideas inside, and even if we feel that we should sit there and say them and just say what's on our mind, what about when we actually see somebody face to face? Are they really being honest with us about what they feel, what they think, or are they just BSing us because that's not really what they think? What do they think? Are they the antagonistic person on social media, or are they the decent person that we see in front of them? That's some of the questions that maybe we have to ask ourselves, and that's my take. And welcome back to our second part of our discussion with Tony about your ACC, and we talked about how it may be different for bipolar disorder. The fact is that you have a non-treatable illness that, unlike maybe bipolar disorder, there is no cure for ACC, but you're getting medication. It seems to be working, the medication that you're on. How else do you work at your recovery, specifically from ACC? And we talked about support systems before Mike's take.
Well, that's the thing. I've been using people.
Okay.
I've been using a lot of people.
As support.
Well, what I mean is, like, I'll check with people on my thoughts.
Okay.
And I'll be like, I'm thinking this.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll just get a look, you know, like,
Okay.
you know, so that'll let me know that it's
It
not
might
real.
not be normal.
Right, or that's not real.
Or it's not real.
And other times I'll get looks that are like, wow, that's pretty insightful.
Insightful,
You
or
know.
some things that you do, or just you'll. I know that for me, you say like, I feel this way or something, and I don't know why I feel this way, and I say like, that's normal. People just
And that's
so
been that's
it
been
gives you a little self doubt.
well, but that's been a huge help. Is like there's been several times where I've gone to Mike and I said, you know, I'm feeling this way, and it doesn't feel right, and he'll be like, everybody feels that. And I'll be like, okay, so I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, but then there's times where someone tells me, hey, I don't know about that, and then I have to worry about it.
Right.
Um,
Now, you mentioned, in the first season, we talked about how you went to NAMI and you said that felt right. NAMI, Montgomery County, the Connection to Recovery Support Group there, and that felt right. You felt like you related there, like you hadn't related before. But now you're going, like you mentioned, into recovery support groups for 12-step recovery. And that's beginning to feel right for you. Maybe that's the next step.
I don't know.
Okay.
I have to feel it out. I've been through the 12-step recovery programs before and received a lot of judgment and received a lot of negativity.
Yeah. Anything different now than before?
A tiny bit. Because before I would just go to the meetings, I would share, and then leave. And I started this thing at the first meeting I went to at the suggestion of somebody. And I would introduce myself to one person and then ask another person for the phone number. It couldn't be the same person. It had to be two different people. And before you know it, my phone went from 3 contacts to, I think there's 60 in there now.
That's great.
And I text about 20 of those people every day. And 3 of those people actually call me consistently. And we have lengthy conversations. At least for me, a lengthy conversation is like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Although for us, a lengthy conversation is like 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
you know?
right. A short conversation.
Yeah.
Very short conversation. 5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
those things are helping because I'm starting to find people that, not that I relate to, but they relate to me.
Yeah.
And they've said so.
Yeah.
And, you know.
So you're finding more people that are relating to you.
And I'm trying to ignore the people who are giving me the looks. You know, like if I say something a little off.
Yeah.
I'm trying to ignore those people.
Yeah.
And so far it's working. But I'm still kind of feeling it out. I'm getting my feet in the water, so to speak.
Right.
I went to one meeting with this gentleman here earlier this week, and about halfway through the meeting, I'm just looking at him going, what the hell are we doing here? You know? Because some meetings are better than others, you know? And, but I'm finding meetings that I also like. Like the Wednesday night meeting that I went to was like, I want to make that my home group. I felt so comfortable there, and I felt like an actual member.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got up to pick up a key tag that night, the girl that was handing out key tags, I had shared earlier in the meeting about, you know, all I want to do is feel like I matter to somebody. Mm-hmm. And she gave me a hug, and she kissed me on the cheek, and she said, "You do matter."
Yeah. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, Tony and I are working on a book called Truth with Tony that will be coming out. We'll be finishing it sometime this year. Can't give you an exact date, but you've been through a lot, and I know you've been through a lot. And talking about a support system, you know, again, difficulty with friendships, difficulty with behavior, susceptible to bullying growing up. Now you've got a group of people who are trying to help you out in a system that's trying to help you out, just like NAMI, just like the Connections Recovery Group. There seems to be a pattern there that here's a great way to recover through support systems.
And I think that with ACC, that's your only option.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy, individual therapy, not group therapy. Individual therapy and recovery programs, whether they be something like NAMI or the other 12-step programs. I personally made a decision earlier this week to make a commitment to the 12-step recovery program that I'm going to, and I am going to step away from NAMI for a while because of certain logistics.
Okay.
And but it doesn't mean that I'm still not going to use those people that I met at NAMI.
Right.
Because those 6 people care about me very deeply. I care very deeply about them. I just think the direction that group is going is, in my mind, talk about ACC, you know, in my mind, completely bonkers. Okay. You know, I don't benefit from going to, I'm sorry, I have to be honest, I don't benefit from going to a library and coloring.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
So
that's somebody else in the group.
You know,
but the thing of going back though is that for kids who, you know, you're 41 years old now, and you've had to deal with this, and you finally got diagnosed knowing that you have complete ACC. What would you tell parents who are coping with this with their kids? What should they do now their kids are in school and maybe they're susceptible to bullying and maybe they have behavioral issues? How would you go about helping those kids?
Well, first of all, I say don't trust the school system, and you know that from watching.
Right.
If you've watched season 1, please go back and watch it.
Particularly that episode about bullying.
Yes, do not trust the school system. The school system wants to cover their own ass. Okay, I would start with a neuropsychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the neuropsychiatrist has to know what ACC is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they also have the ability to get your kid tested to get the MRI, to get the CAT scan,
Yeah.
and make sure there's nothing wrong with the brain first.
Mm-hmm.
Then if there's nothing wrong with the brain, then they can go and say, okay, well, what's his problem or her problem, and what are they dealing with?
Right.
You know, but if they find something in that CAT scan and MRI,
Yeah.
then there's more answers as to what they can do.
And today they can look at MRIs and they can look at CAT scans and they can find more about mental illness as an X-ray than they ever could before. And there's 1 in 4,000, as we said, cases of ACC, but those are just the ones that have been found. There could be more, so it doesn't really hurt
Well,
to
you're
get
also-
a CAT scan or an MRI.
My mom made this point, and she is right. You're also just starting to hear about ACC
Mm-hmm.
because back in the 70s, they didn't know what ACC was.
Yeah.
And now the kids in the 70s that have ACC
Mm-hmm.
were diagnosed later,
Mm-hmm.
and now people are actually talking about it. I think there's a book called Knowing Alex,
Yeah.
and there's a couple other books that are coming out now.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are adults. They're 40, 50, 60 years old, and they're saying, I found out I had this condition, and this is how hard my life has been. My suggestion to anybody on this who is watching this, go to the search engine on YouTube and type Agenisis of the Corpus Callosum, and there are several video blogs from people who are my age and down into their 20s and 30s that talk about how hard their life is on a daily basis. You know, I will obsess over everything, and it's not obsessive compulsive disorder. It's because my brain can't send the thought over here to say that's not a rational thought.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And your attention span, the attention span. Somebody would say that's ADD. No, that's ACC, right?
yeah, he gave me the early on when we started writing the book, and he needed emails and stuff, and I was like, I can't sit there and type, Mike. And he was like, use the voice recorder on your phone, and it was so much easier. I'd end up sending him a 12-page thing just because I'm sitting there talking into my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't seem like an attention thing because sitting there typing is more trying to focus,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't do that. Whereas if I can hit the record button on a phone and just talk, it's like I'm talking to my teddy bear.
Plus, it's been helping just talking, like going to Starbucks and talking all this stuff through. So, okay, so I think that we're going to go more into ACC as the season goes along, but right now, let's go into Truth with Tony.
Hail to the truth inside, hiding from you. Can't let it fail to deliver us away. I'm dying and dying, I'm telling the truth.
During this week, when I found out we were actually going to be starting season 2, I was really excited, despite all the chaos going on in my life. And I just wanted to talk about my marriage and the things that went on to destroy it. Because they say it takes two. And my wife has her own issues, and they affected the marriage very much so. But also, the stress of her living with someone with a mental illness of bipolar and ACC caused her a lot of stress, because for a while she didn't understand the illness of ACC. But like any other wife would do, she started learning what those things were and why I was acting the way I was and why I was doing the things that I was doing. I also found out that I started thinking back to when my wife and I were dating. And I started realizing that we work a lot better as friends. As a married couple, it was just way too much stress and tension, and a lot of things got involved to where I couldn't handle it. And the 3 times she has left me, I ended up in the hospital. I ended up in Las Vegas. I ended up in Michigan. Then I ended up in the hospital again. And I really don't want to give anything away, but I had a thought about a month and a half ago, I guess. And that thought was, I wouldn't want to be married to me because of everything that goes on in my head. But would I change anything because of the way I feel now? No. Yes, I still love her, and I'm glad she put up with me, and I put up with her, and I guess as a personal message to my wife, I just want to say thank you. For 8.5 years, you made my life a lot easier, despite my illnesses. And I'm one of those people that tends to think about the I'd rather think about the happy times than the bad times. And there were happy times. But I started realizing that my wife and I work better as friends because we were always good at giving each other advice. Always. And taking that advice. And one of the things with being involved with this 12-step program right now is I've been doing a lot of praying. Because I have a hell of a time letting go. I don't know if it's ACC. I don't know if it's just being a human being. But I can't let go. I don't know how. And besides saying thank you, I also want to say I'm sorry. I did the best that I could in the conditions that were given to me. And, I got confused because when I was thinking about filming this episode with Truth with Tony, I knew Truth with Tony wasn't going to have anything to really do with the topic. But at the same time, I needed it to come out and for it to be said. And as lonely as I get, I can honestly say that I have felt better mentally since leaving the same roof under Stephanie. And I know she has too. I'm not happy in the situation that I'm living in now, but that has nothing to do with Stephanie. And but I do think that it is the right decision to get divorced. And I don't feel any guilt. All I feel is that I really felt that, especially we were married 8.5 years, and I really feel especially from year 2 to year 5, I really did my best to make everything work. And then just like school And just like life, I just gave up. So, I guess my message in Truth with Tony tonight is I'm sorry I gave up, but I didn't have any other option. But I definitely do think we worked better as friends. And so that's my truth. What's yours?
Tony, I know that that was difficult for you to talk about, and I think you're very brave for talking about it on here. Goes back to my take a little bit on social media about here you are, they can see you, you're not typing this away, this is raw emotion. And of course anybody who has been or is in a marriage knows that it's a two-way street. And all I can say is that don't look at it as giving up. You are putting your life together, and you're not giving up on that. So I think that that's what's important.
No, and I know that, and you know, it's just, and I've said this to you numerous times, and I've said this to doctors numerous times in hospitals. I'm 41 years old. And I'm tired of starting over. I really am. You know, I'm tired of starting over with nothing and having to build up again. I did it in 2003, did it in 1996, you know, did it in 2010, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And so when people say, you know, when I say to people that I give up or I gave up, like when I gave up in school, I gave up in school because nobody was listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just gave up.
Yeah, and we'll get into more of that down the road about social, vocational training and so forth like that.
But with that, it's just and then it goes to the different aspect with a relationship, where you're in a relationship and you just get so frustrated and you don't know what to do anymore, so you just throw your hands up in the air and you stop communicating, you stop doing everything, and you just say, you know, I'm done.
And like we talk about, I would say that's anybody that's been in your situation. That's not just ACC.
But it was also really hard because there's all the emotion there. There's still the love there. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned, we work a lot better as friends. Mm-hmm. We give each other great advice. Mm-hmm. You know, I've actually been praying for her for the past week, and praying for myself too. Yeah, and other things. Yeah, and so those things are starting me on my path. And you know, you really want to know. Basically, the last 36 days have been really hard for me. Yeah. I think out of the last 36 days, I only haven't cried 4 of those days.
Yeah, and I want to say, by the way, I didn't say this, but congratulations on over 30 days of sobriety, and how important it is for people to realize not to drink and drink alcohol when you're taking the medication. But also just the sense of now you can feel things that maybe you haven't been able to feel before.
Well, that's been the most ridiculous thing, and those are the phone calls that I've been making and the things that I've been talking to people about. It's like, what you people, and the people in the meetings laugh when I say this because they've been through it.
Right.
But I tell them, I'm like, I don't want to feel this.
Yeah.
Feeling this sucks.
Yeah. That's why it's self-medication. And that's something we'll also get on with in the second season. We'll have an episode about that. But next time, and this is going to be 2 weeks away because we're going every 2 weeks now this season, is going to be on adult bullying. And, you know, a lot of people sit there and say that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, is like an adult bully. But we'll have more about that, not just about the president, but also about how in your daily life there is adult bullying. So we'll talk about that next time on Mental Health Today. So for Tony Clark, I'm Mike Murray. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
blood. There's no alibi.